Hey there, I'm Julie, and this is the Married to Addiction podcast. If you're here, then you're probably what I call my secret sister. We're in a situation we never asked to be in and fighting a battle we never wanted to fight. We're faith-filled women who are married to an alcoholic, and it affects every inch of our lives. If that sounds like you, then this is a safe place for you to land. Married to Addiction is a faith-based podcast where I help you find the tools and strength you need to navigate your husband's addiction without losing yourself in the process. So please subscribe and tune in as often as you can, because your husband's recovery is important, but so is yours. Hey, before we get started with today's episode, I wanted to let you know that there's a really cool thing that's been added to the Married to Addiction website. So as you probably have seen, if you have been here for any length of time, sometimes the things that I offer will change. Sometimes the freebies will change. Sometimes the program offerings will change. Just like with anything, over time, things evolve, right? Well, it's kind of been a little bit challenging to keep up with that up until now as, a listener and or a website visitor, because you would just go there looking for something and it would just be gone and you were wondering, okay, what the heck? Well, what else is there? There is now on the Married to Addiction website an everything page. Basically, what the everything page is going to be is it will list in real time everything that I'm currently offering. The free offerings, the paid offerings, all of it. So you can always head to that page, and I want you to bookmark it so that you have it ready at any given time to see what's currently available. Be sure that you do check in regularly because, like I said, things shift, things change. There might be things on there right now that you don't even know that I offer. So please go check that out. You just go to marriedtoaddiction.com, and at the top of the website or on your little menu bar, if you're on mobile, you will see a tab that says everything, and in parentheses, start here. Just click right there and you'll be on your way to finding out everything that Married to Addiction currently has to offer. Hello, and welcome into episode 94 of the Married to Addiction podcast. Today's episode is called How to Start Making Yourself a Priority. So if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you know that I teach that making yourself a priority is absolutely essential when you're the wife of an alcoholic. But today I want to talk about what exactly that means, along with what it is and what it is not. I also want to share with you some ways to make it a reality to make yourself a priority, because it might seem kind of impossible right now. So first of all, what does making yourself a priority mean for us as wives of alcoholics? First and foremost, it means that realizing that your husband's addiction has likely become your priority. Does that sound familiar? That most certainly was the case for me. So realizing what your priority actually has become is kind of step one. It also means changing that. It means recognizing that you are going through a traumatic situation and you need support. It means learning some essential survival skills. It means, and I've talked about this before, putting your mask on first before you try to help others. So what does putting ourselves first and making ourselves a priority look like for us? It looks like taking care of ourselves so that we can show up as needed in our lives. And that equates to caring for our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. It looks like being what we need to be for our kids, at our jobs. I'm sure that you have had issues in those areas because of being so distracted by your husband's addiction. I know that I most certainly did. What does it not look like? So it shouldn't look like doing all of those things I just talked about without also continuing to care for other things and other people in our lives. So it doesn't look like closing everyone out and like going on a, journey of self-healing and only be concerned about that, like phoning everything else in. But how are we supposed to balance all of this? So caring for our kids, doing our best at our jobs, being concerned about our husband, taking care of ourselves in all of these areas, when we're the wife of an alcoholic and we feel like some days we cannot even put one foot in front of the other. The first thing that you really need to consider is that one of the main reasons that that might sound so hard is because you haven't been doing it. You are probably what I call hung out to dry right now. You are probably living as a shell of your former self, so exhausted in all of the ways, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, because you haven't been making yourself a priority. You haven't been doing any of these things to care for yourself. Because once we start to care for ourselves, everything becomes easier, not harder. Once we start, repairing some of these areas, it doesn't feel harder. It's like a weight is lifted. But how do we actually do it? And I want to give you 3 different things to start with here. The first thing you have to do is you have to give yourself permission. When we are the wife of an alcoholic, we give ourselves full permission to fix our husbands, but not ourselves. We put ourselves on the back burner. I want you to think about that for a second, because your husband is not yours to fix, but you are responsible for you. So even though we automatically kind of fall into this pattern and give ourselves permission to fix our husband and start trying to fix our husband on a daily basis, that's really kind of backwards, because he's not our job. You are your job. You are responsible for you. So the first thing we really need to do is give ourselves permission to take the time, the energy, and the effort that it takes to work on you. And if you continue to pour all of that time, energy, and effort into trying to fix your husband, which is not possible, spoiler alert, it's not your job and it's an exercise in futility. If we continue to take all of that time, energy, and effort over there on his side, then of course we're not going to have the time, energy, and effort that it takes to work on us. So I hope that after listening to this podcast for a while, you understand that that's not your assignment. Fixing your husband is not your assignment. Taking care of you is where your effort needs to be. So give yourself permission to do that, because that is your actual job. The second thing, you want to make sure that you start small. If you may have tried this before, I know I have. If you try to make a bunch of changes all at once, it's too much. We're notorious for doing this at the beginning of the year, right? We make all these New Year's resolutions. I'm going to, read my Bible for 30 minutes every single morning. I'm also going to do yoga for 30 minutes every single morning. And I'm also going to meal prep for the day for 30 minutes every single morning. I mean, it can just really be too much. And how long does that last? 3 to 5 days. For me, when I try to do too much, I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot continue this. That's how it feels when you try to make too many changes all at once. And if you try to work on, if you're now, seeing the value in this and you're like, yeah, I probably need to make some changes. But if you try to start working on your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health all at the same time, you are going to get overwhelmed and you are going to get burnout. So for now, after you've given yourself permission and you understand that this really needs to be something that you're focused on, pick one thing. Pick one thing each day to focus on, and then go in increments. At first, maybe 10 minutes a day. In the morning or on your lunch break or when you get off work or before you go to bed, whatever works best for you. 10 minutes a day. Then 20 minutes a day. And maybe split it up. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. Then 30 minutes a day. Like, keep bumping it up and spreading it out if you need to as you can, so that you are putting more time into this self-care, which is so critical for you right now as the wife of an alcoholic. The third thing, and this one's really important too, find a plan to follow. So I'm going to kind of go back to the example of, say you're trying to meal prep and you're trying to do meal planning and healthier eating and all of that stuff, but you're just kind of trying to throw it together on your own. You're just going to Pinterest and getting completely overwhelmed by the thousands and thousands of recipes, and you're trying to decide between like keto and paleo and clean eating and fasting and all of these different things, and how do I even know what's the right thing to do because there's so much information out there. Trying to do it that way can really overwhelm you before you even get started, because you're like, I know I need to make these changes. I want to make these changes. I'm trying to make these changes, but I don't even know where to start. Like, I'm so overwhelmed. When you try to decide where to even start, and then you try to start piecing together a plan on your own, that can feel really difficult just for anyone, but especially when you're already dealing with the day-to-day difficulty of being married to an alcoholic. Following a plan that's already laid out for you can simplify this process a great deal, and also ensure that you aren't doing too much so that you don't get overwhelmed, but that you are still moving forward, right? So in the case of going back to the eating example, maybe you hire a nutritionist and a personal trainer. So now you're taking it from just trying to figure it out on your own to somebody that's like, okay, we're going to go from here to here, and here's how you get there. And here's the steps for each day along the way, and here's how we move forward. But they also keep you out of overwhelm. So that's a really, really great way to start making changes without all of the overwhelm that can come with trying to do it on your own. So, of course, if you need a plan like that, I do offer one, the Secret Sister Circle. It is literally that. It is created to take the wife of an alcoholic who is struggling and drowning from those feelings of, I don't even know what to do. I'm spinning. I just don't know how to move forward. Taking you from there through a step-by-step plan of first do this, now do this, now do this, to get you on your way to your healing journey. If you do not want to join the Secret Sister Circle, which, by the way, you can find that on my website, marriedtoaddiction.com. If you don't want to do that, then find something else. Just find something that can guide you through this process in a way that feels doable, but is also effective at moving you forward. So those are the 3 tips I have to get you started. The first one, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to work on you, and make room for that by stopping trying to fix your husband. That's his and God's job. Your job is you. The second thing, start small. Don't try to do a whole bunch at once. It's going to feel way too overwhelming and you won't stick with it. And the third thing, find a plan to follow that's laid out for you, that's realistic, and that can really simplify it so that you feel like you actually have a place to start and can keep going without that overwhelm. I just want to really emphasize one more time how critical this is. You must start making yourself a priority, because if you don't, you will drown. You will end up probably physically ill. You will have, massive issues with your emotional and mental health. Your spiritual health can really, really take a hit. I mean, I was just a mess in all of the ways because I did not make myself a priority for a really long time. You can't be good for anyone else in your life until you are good to yourself. You can't be good for anyone else in your life until you are good to yourself. So I really encourage you to start doing that today, because you are so worth it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Quick question for you before I let you go today. Have you been to the Married to Addiction website? If you haven't, I would love if you would go pay it a visit. It's just marriedtoaddiction.com. And over there, you can see just a lot of different information about my podcast. There is a blog on there. There's some free resources for you. And there's also a few ways that you can actually get some help if you need a little more help and direction and support as you travel this difficult path with your addicted husband. So if you haven't yet, please go visit marriedtoaddiction.com. Thanks so much.